Charnas,
Here.
Vincent,
Here.
Perry,
Here.
Silver,
Here.
Klein,
Here.
Comet,
Yeah.
Duber.
Yes. So we always appoint 2 council members to the Volunteer Firefighters Dependents Fund. Hopefully it is never a duty that you need. And generally speaking, it's the 2 newest members. However, Mr. Charnas, you're up. And then we have a 3-way tie or so for next up. So does anyone, Pradeep, Brent, Stacy, want to
I'd
volunteer?
like to do that.
You'd like to? Okay, thank you, Mr. Comet. So I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Comet, Mr. Charnas to the Volunteer Firefighters Dependents Fund of board members. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mrs. Perry. And if you would call roll, please, Anna.
Sure. Charnas,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Silver,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Comet,
Yes.
Duber.
Yes. Thank you both for volunteering to do that. I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report of fiscal year 2020 through November 2020. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Dana, if you would lead us, please.
If we could, is she on?
Yeah, I think so. She was.
Yeah, Dana's.
She's
just
on
Well-
twice.
muted. She's muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you could hear
Yeah.
you.
I'm on my phone.
Oh,
You gotta turn something off because you're feeding back.
Yep, hold on.
You are muted.
try it now. Nope, I can hear myself.
You've got 2 applications open in Zoom. So one of
She's
them,
actually got 3. If you just
Yeah, she's a
unmute the
440.
phone number one.
yeah.
Nope, other one.
I would move on, but there's not that much to move on to. So,
Can you
Dana,
hear
are
me
you
now
re-
without echo?
is that you, Dana? Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
without echo? Because I left the computer room.
Yep.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
okay.
Okay, we have the November cash account summary showing $8,520,039.82. The summary we have for November, our total revenues were $894,876.97. And our expenditures were $1,433,729.98. And the biggest difference for the increase in expenditures over revenue was because we paid the debt service for our bond anticipation notes. We have the revenue and expenditure report for the general fund for November 30th. We're at 11/12 of the year, 91%. Pretty much the same variances that we've had in the past with the revenue being down due to COVID, with the exception of the miscellaneous revenue being higher than anticipated because of the Bureau of Workers' Comp refunds. And most of the variances now have to do with medical reimbursements, and those were already adjusted when we did the budget amendment in December for the year end, and you'll see that next month when we do the December reporting. That's all I had for the treasurer's report.
Anybody have any questions or comments? If not, if you would call roll, please, Anna.
You're muted, Anna.
okay, I got it. Charnas,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Silver,
Yes.
Klein,
yes,
Comet,
Yes.
Duber.
Yes. I just realized you're sitting in your chair. You look like a little mini Anna doll sitting in her council chair. All right.
you look
I'll
a
make a
little
motion to
like,
approve treasurer's report of fiscal year 2020. I'm sorry, the tax administrator's report for December 2020.
Second.
Is there a second?
I seconded.
Thank you. Dana, if you're still there, if you would.
I am here.
All
Okay,
right.
we have the administrator report for the year end actually of December. We brought in December, $347,523.63 gross tax, which is about an increase of almost $13,500 over December of last year. Our year-to-date is $5,863,675.72, which is about $285,000 less than year-to-date gross of last year. The net collections is down about 171 after taking into consider 171,000 taken into consideration fees. You have the chart showing the December and then the cumulative for the whole year as well.
All right.
Are there any questions, or that's all I have?
All right. Well, thank you. Anna, if you'd call roll, please.
Harness,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Silver,
Yes.
Klein. Klein. Is he frozen
I think he's frozen.
Present.
or sleeping?
Deep in thought.
He's-
Okay, well, Comet,
Yes.
it looks like Klein. Okay, he said
You did.
Duber.
Yes. All right. There's no audience, so there's no comments, no old business, no new business. Let's move on to the Orange Road recreational trail discussion. Mayor, would you like to lead off on that?
I actually muted myself because I hope the letter that was sent in my name to you yesterday gives you a good, clean lead into. Brian and Bob are here to answer any and all technical questions. Where we're at this time is we're gonna need to have a no or go decision. We're looking for that by March. The numbers are what they are, but because the using a change order on the current contractor is higher than the engineer's estimate by more than we like, we are requesting going out to bid. But, you know, you may not want, we don't know if you're gonna let us go out to bid or wait till the town hall meeting. Because again, once we go to bid, we'll come back to you with the lowest bid. So if you tell us to go to bid, it's not a no-go because we have to come back to you. We thought we would be able to come and just ask you to change the CATS contract and then we wouldn't be delayed another month. But because their price came back higher than expected, we do want to go to bid. It costs, you know, maybe $10,000 to $12,000 to go to bid to know what the actual cost will be of the project. So we can wait till you hear from the residents, or we can just take a risk and start the bidding. But again, if you want to do it, even if you know you want to do it, and I know I do, but even if you know you want to, we don't have a price yet to authorize. We are asking to go to bid so that we can get that definite price.
So I have a question. You know, if it costs that, I don't know why it costs that much to go to bid, but that's another story. If we
Because
have
we're
a bid for,
obligated, there's a reason, we're obligated to the engineer for the estimate of the contract once he draws final plans, even if we don't do it.
can
So it's
we,
just the engineers.
having a bid from CAPS, can we negotiate with them? Because there's really 3 areas where they're coming above the engineer. It's not like it's the whole thing. There's the cost of the concrete. There's the traffic, which is like 20,000 more than the engineer's estimate, which I'm sure is something could be negotiated. And I think there was one other, I think it was maybe site restoration or something. That's like 60 of the 80,000. So
Well, the
can we
maintenance,
negotiate with CAPS to get them to the, you know, on those things? before we go to bid and know that we're closer to the engineer's estimate. So at least, again, before we go
That's-
even to Orangewood residents, it would be nice to know if it's going to be 600,000 or it's going to be 520 or somewhere closer to 520.
I'll let the village engineer or the law director answer the legal question. I just want to tell you that on the traffic maintenance, which was very astute of you to notice, that's because we priced it in to keep the traffic going both ways. We could save money there, but then it will be one way only.
Right, but it's not like it's Lander. I don't live on Orangewood, but again, I can't imagine that it's not like Lander Road or Harvard Road where.
No, but it means people have to go all the way around to get home.
You would have the authority to negotiate a rate that's acceptable. Now, Brian can weigh in on whether he thinks that's feasible, because I assume that preliminary conversation may have already occurred.
Well, that preliminary conversation already did occur. They've actually come down about $20,000 from their first go round, which I told them already, sharpen the pencil, because if you guys were going to do this, you want to know that you're getting their best price. My inkling is I feel that my prices are more in line with what we would get. Just because of the amount of the sidewalk trail going in, since it's only 5 foot wide, that we would probably see a cost closer to $6, maybe under $6 per square foot. Just because, again, the amounts that we're putting in. And, as you see, the $6 was what they originally, that my cost was based upon a lot of their original submittal for the overall recreational trail project in the beginning. I think we would see that $6 again. Right there, if you're saving almost $1 a square foot, that's, like you said, that's $20,000 we're going to be saving right there. Could I negotiate more with them? Yeah, I don't have a problem doing that. But again, do we have a number in mind? Is it my number, or is it they're going to take off another $25,000 and next month we're going to be having this conversation again?
Anybody want to weigh in on that?
If you're inclined to do it, then probably the best thing to do is to get the best price. I'm sorry, Bob.
Well, and I think there will be competitive pricing in 2020, at least from what I've seen on construction. A lot of the contractors don't know what business is coming in 2021. From the bids that I've gotten, from bids that I had in 2020 where we didn't do a project and we're revisiting in 2021, the bids are coming in lower from contractors that need business or are looking for business. So,
and that's the way I feel. If I felt that they were relatively close, or we would see this number, I would recommend that we would go with CATS and just and roll it out, because their differential between them and me is $90,000, 80 some thousand dollars in construction. I don't feel comfortable, rolling with their number. And again, because I already asked them to sharpen their pencil once.
Are they aware that we're considering bids from other people? I mean, is that from other companies?
Oh, they were told up front that, we would come to them, they would get a crack at this. And if we weren't satisfied, that out of obligation, we should go out to bid.
Can I just go
And they've
back a
seen
little?
your numbers, right?
I can't hear
They've
Stacy.
seen your numbers. They've seen our numbers, right, Brian? They've seen your numbers.
They see my number.
They
They
have,
didn't see it when they bid it. They didn't see it when they bid it.
Of course. Can I just go back a little bit? The reason we were kind of pushing this through, and rushing it, was that we thought we would get a great price from them. since they were already here working. So now that we don't have a great price from them, I think we owe it to our residents to look and see what the best price is. And it's no harm done to go ahead and put it out to bid and get all of our budget that we need to do on our end to pay for that.
Lisa, I agree with you, but we weren't rushing because of cats. We were rushing because we were hoping we were pressured because of going to assessment, which we don't have to feel pressured by now. The only risk of going to bid right now is having Brian go ahead, do the final plans, do the bid specs, go to bid, and then we don't do it at all. Then we incurred a cost that we wouldn't have. I don't think it's a high probability. I mean, if you in your heart think you're not going to want to do this at any price, then let's not do it. But if this is a genuine decision and we want to get the best price, and maybe tonight you should authorize us to go to bid on it, knowing that if next month we have a town hall meeting and it's clear no one wants it, then we risk that amount of money to keep the process going. But
Personally, I don't think I have enough information to know if I want it or not want it. I think it's going to depend on the price. It's going to depend on the project. It's going to depend on the residents and what their needs are and what their wants are. I've not heard any of this. I didn't even know that assessment was a possibility. I missed something there.
no, the whole project is an assessment. We have to close the project out eventually and put it on Pinecrest.
Okay, not an assessment to the homeowners. Okay.
Oh, not at all. And the letter's very clear. And I mean, we're talking about a difference of 100,000 out of our pocket or something less, because there was 410,000 left on the 5 million from Pinecrest.
I still don't think there's any harm going out to bid.
Do you have an approximate cost on what that Chagrin Boulevard culvert will be? What are we talking there? I know that's one of the other things being considered.
Well, we have $750,000 of revenue coming into the 406 this year. Just keep that in mind.
If I may,
Wait, what's her answer? Brian or Bob?
Bob, was it 70,000, something like that?
Yeah, it was like 75, I think, was the engineer's estimate. I think a couple of things, if I can just make a real quick comment. Alan, to answer your question too about the 12,000, to go to bid, you're looking at a preliminary set of plans. So we need all the front end documents and a final draft. They need to know what they're going to bid on. So that covers some of the 12,000. You know, the other thing is I don't historically ever remember that we've taken a bid of 16% higher than what the engineer's estimate. That's pretty substantial. So what I don't know, and maybe Steve will be able to answer, is that we can negotiate at any time. We know what our engineer's estimate is. It's very likely that maybe the contractor will look and say, you know what, when they hear the information that we're going to bid, sharpen that pencil even more to try and get the job. So I think Brian would have that opportunity to negotiate that moving forward still, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem going back to Katz saying, if you can't do better than this, we're going to bid. And give them my target number and ask them if they can get to it. I mean, my only concern with going to bid, the only number out of mind that you might see higher is mobilization, and that's only because you're moving a new contractor in rather than a contractor that already has everything and knows exactly where he's going, what he's doing. Outside of that, I'm not worried about my number. But again, if council would rather have me go and talk with Katz and see if we can negotiate them down and give them a target number of 460 and say, if you can get there, you can have the job, then, I have no problem going to do that.
Brian, do you prefer them over every other contractor for this?
There's plenty of contractors out there that I have no problem working with. There's a couple, and don't get me wrong, because I thought Katz did a fairly good job. I mean, we had some rough spots in the beginning, especially over this last year. I thought it went rather smoothly. There's a couple other contractors that if they got the job, by all means, I wouldn't have one issue or another. which is also the risk of going to bid, possibly getting somebody we might not want to be, working with. There's a couple of them out there that, they're okay, but I know it's going to be like pulling teeth.
But we have the opportunity, if there's one that we don't like, that we can still decline that.
Yes, absolutely.
Reason.
Right.
Is there any kind of legal requirement that we have to solicit bids at a certain amount? If we're talking about a certain project, are we required to solicit bids?
Well, you have a charter, which means that you have established a number at $50,000, any project over $50,000. By charter, you have agreed to go out for bids. There is an exception within the charter, or excuse me, within the ordinance that establishes the $50,000 limit, that if you determine good cause exists for not going out to public bids, you're entitled to make that determination. And if you can get a number that, because of mobilization being taken out of it, is comparable, is a good number that you probably can't get by going out to bid, you can make the determination to do that. You have the maximum flexibility provided by law because you have a charter and you're not bound by the state code on this issue.
The other thing I would look at is by going out to bid, I don't think Katz's number would come in any higher because they would more than likely bid themselves. So if you look at Katz's number as the worst case scenario, that's probably the worst case scenario, that their number is going to come in right there and they would be the low bidder.
Brian and Bob, how did they do in terms of their cost compared to their bid for the current project? Change orders that maybe we didn't order. Did they have a lot of change orders? Were they have good in line with what they bid? Were they, was there a lot of change orders on their part that they didn't foresee? How did that come in?
I think we were pretty good in line with some stuff. We had a little bit of dispute with some quantities, and we had some money spent out of contingencies for just example, there was a vault that was uncovered on Lander Road, which required some moving. I think that was like 10 grand, but I think overall our numbers were pretty good there. And I think I emphasized with Brian that overall the last year was good. I just going on what Brian said as well. I mean, if you take Katz's number, the worst case scenarios, you're looking at 190,000 out of our infrastructure, and that does give a contingency amount there. I thought it was 40,000, right, Brian? Discretionary allowance.
Yep.
And if we're in line with Brian's numbers, we're looking at 110. The reality is, I think Brian is always good with his numbers and allowing a little wiggle room. Is it possible it can even become underneath if, Alan, if you're seeing stuff on the market that's coming in under yourself, maybe there's a possibility that number does come under the engineer's estimate, but the only way we'd know is going to bid.
Can I add a couple things in here I think are salient to this discussion? Number one is the timing of the project is going to have a great deal to do with what the numbers might be. I don't think we have the urgency right now that I think we're being pressured under previously, and maybe there's a couple different steps that we ought to consider taking in the process. To the extent of rebidding the job, at this point, nobody's mobilized. Katz would have to remobilize for this project. It's not like they have a crew sitting on site that they're moving from one location to another to continue the project. And they're in their bid, I am sure, they're anticipating that remobilization for this specific project. Second to that is the fact that I know that material costs have gone up rather radically in a lot of different trades. And I've seen that in the work that I'm doing. And so there is some offset here. But it would seem to me that from a sort of a process standpoint, it might make sense for us to go and have the Orangewood meeting to find out to what extent the Orangewood residents are behind this before we even spend the time bidding it and having Brian finish the engineering package to actually bid it. And then we bid it at that point.
All right, we were still hoping to close the assessment out in September, but if you want to follow that, we will rule that out because and it doesn't matter.
That was actually going to be my opinion as well. I mean, we're talking about a month really that we're going to wait. It's not going to change anything dramatically. Bob, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I think my personal opinion, I think that's what the plan was all along. We were just trying to get the information out to you folks so you know what kind of money we're talking about. You see a preliminary plan so you can engage with that conversation with the, not only the Orangewood residents, but I'm sure there'll be more in the village, and open dialogue and get feedback and stuff like that. This is just giving you knowledge, to have that meeting and be able to answer those questions that are going to be asked of you.
Well,
Trust
Bob, you
me.
surprised me because that's not what we said yesterday. What we said yesterday was that we thought we were going to have a good CATS number, but now we do have an extra one.
We thought we were going to get a good CATS number to make life easy. We didn't get a good CATS number, so that's out. If we came in, I think we'd have a different conversation right now. If CATS did come in with the engineer's estimate, our conversation might be totally different, but it's not, it changed.
Right.
Well, and just to add, if you have the if we have the Orangewood meeting and it is a full go, that you're probably looking at, 6 weeks down the line when we're putting the final plans together, we could always go back to CATS at that time. And because by then the early bidding of projects will be out. They'll know if they have a full plate or not. And if they're chomping for work, they might easily want to negotiate. If they have so much work, they might tell us to, no, and our number's our number. So, I mean, that could work in our favor, as far as negotiating with CATS if we wanted to go back that route.
But I do like the idea of you telling them between now and the town hall meeting with the residents that we're prepared to go to bid.
No, I have no problem with that. I'm sure they're going to want to know if the village is going to proceed and give them the project, because they've kind of been told that already. But I also told them that I have to, appear in front of council and it all has to be authorized anyhow. But that it's a very high possibility that if they give me too high of a number, we're going to go out to bid.
So let's just stick with that plan with waiting until the Orangewood meeting.
I do want to have the Orangewood meeting the first or second week of March, Brandon.
Well, so that was going to be the night.
Why wait till March? What's
No, we were going to do it February.
February.
February. I would prefer probably the first. I think that there was a reason I was looking at one as opposed to the other. Basically, I would prefer whichever one is going to be a shorter agenda. I don't know what else you guys have.
Yeah, I don't think we have too much coming up.
I
we'll
would
confirm with you.
I'd like to have an agenda that's mostly like tonight. To do this because.
Is it a separate meeting or it's part of our council?
No, I think we could do it part of our regular meeting and we would take care of the village business first. And then after that, we would then go on and have the Orangewood meeting. So if we have a pretty skeleton.
Well, that's usually the first week is better because we don't have all the finance stuff.
Right. So that's why I was thinking first. But that's probably best in my opinion. And then we could have a pretty skeleton agenda. I'd probably ask that people's comments stay to a somewhat minimum that week, and so that we could get to the residents and maybe start the Orangewood meeting at 7:45 or 8 o'clock, depending on what else we have on the agenda.
Well, we'll put a notice out to them and we'll tell them it'll be on the agenda that night.
Well, why don't we just pick a time? So I mean,
And then in the middle of the meeting, you can have millions of people signing in while Anna's trying to take notes.
No, I think what we do is, I think we have are we able to have a separate Zoom set up for that, Anna? So that
Well, we have to end the first meeting, get everybody out and then bring them all back in again. So I mean, 8 o'clock would have to be the latest.
I think it's
the
probably
earliest we
better.
could start.
I think it's probably better if we do it at 8 o'clock instead of 7:45, as long as, we on council can keep our meeting to like 15, 20 minutes, then you won't have a bunch of people trying to jump in. So I think we do that and then we could start another one at 8 o'clock.
Steve, or do any department heads, are you aware right now of anything that is business you need to attend to in first week of February?
Nothing major.
Yeah, life is slow in Orange Village right now.
So let's plan on doing that then. We'll do the 3rd.
Since we are having it, the first meeting, is there any, I want to say, basic questions about the preliminary plans? Obviously, the engineer took some things into consideration with making it a little straighter. Orangewood is definitely a different development than what we were dealing with down the main roads and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, Bob, that's what we talked about at one point, that, this I think should be more of a sidewalk, but kind of move around the little pieces that we have as opposed to the windy trail.
I do have
I think
a
it
question about one of
look
those.
better and just make more sense and be more, I guess, consistent with other developments that have more sidewalk looking.
Yep, there is still some items in there that we're working around, some castings and
Of
stuff.
course.
See that in the bid, but generally speaking, it was straightened out and stuff like that. So
I do have a
Is
question.
he on the south
Yeah.
side of the trail of the street? Is that correct?
East and south.
Yes, east and south.
South and east.
So one of the things said the driveway aprons will be replaced on an as-needed basis. I'm just wondering, I know one of the questions that came up, a year ago when this was first being talked about was how people's landscaping is going to be affected. How do we define as needed? If landscaping is interrupted, is that as needed, or how does that work?
Stacy, the driveways as needed has to do with the engineering and making sure they're safe. We will only replace driveways that need to be replaced to accommodate the trail. In other times, in other projects, we replace aprons anyways because they're gravel or they're stone and we're doing concrete. As far as the landscaping, we're going to have to go case by case. Technically, if it's in the right of way, it's tough, but we don't treat our residents like that. And we've gotten through the first part of the trails with most people getting comfortable with what we did and didn't do. So we talk to them and we won't replace expensive structures, but if we can move the trail a foot to get out of the way, we will.
Yeah, well, we definitely tweak it around. I know just laying it out, it goes through some of the small landscaping spots around like the mailboxes and stuff like that. The whole goal of this layout is to keep it in the right of way. The only area that we're technically out of the right of way is down by Harvard, where the homeowners association owns a little strip of land behind all the trees that line it. So we are going to ask them to go down that little strip of land behind the trees so we don't have to wipe out all the trees in the landscaping because we just don't have any room there. All other places, it's mostly trimming trees. I do know as we get up towards Lander Road, some of the big trees, they're going to have to come down because would be forced out of the right of way and the slopes are too high. A couple of the trees up there are practically dead. But for the most part, the landscaping, we can tweak it around as long as we're not getting outside of the right of way, because that once we get outside of the right of way, then we have to go back to the easement thing and all that stuff.
Well, if people are willing to accept an easement to avoid that, it's up to them whether they want to replace the landscaping or not. And, the small adjustment may be of no significance in the actual design, while people might,
Well, what I don't want to do is, again, the location that you're looking at is 5 foot, close to 5 foot off the back of the curb and 5 foot inside of the right of way. So we have room to wiggle back and forth. and, you know, originally we were gonna put it right down the right of way, but then you're really getting into everybody's landscaping. So again, working with residents, we've done it the whole project through. So I mean, it's all doable.
So I recall just growing up, and I think it's the same way, but on Orangewood Drive, it's either one or two of the side yards that's closer to Lander has rock instead of grass. Is it? I don't know if it's still like that.
It is.
Yes.
And what are we doing that? Because obviously there's a you know, a safety issue of a rock rolling there and a kid riding a bike, and then, you know, so what do we do in that situation?
Well, would we put like 3 feet of grass around the trail, Brian? And because that homeowner called me, they wanted to know, because they're about to replace their rocks and they know this trail's coming, so they want to know if they should wait. But would we put some grass around it, Brian, or all rock?
We can put, and again, this is all what you're going to be permitted in the right of way. I personally don't like to see the rock in the right of way. Only because I know it's low maintenance for a homeowner, but you know, it has other issues, Bob, you know, with snow plows and stuff coming off. A lot of the rock up there is pretty much embedded into the mud right now. For those homeowners, if we will push the rocks back and they can spread it back out, and, you know, we'll put grass out there, you know, but if the building department's going to let them put the rock back in there, you know, they can do it. I don't. It's kind of like we treat mailboxes. You know, if somebody has a mailbox that's not breakaway, we don't put back that mailbox because it needs to be breakaway according to the post office. If the resident wants to put their mailbox back and rebuild it, you know, Steve, you can weigh in on that if you want.
So I guess my thought is that a discussion with that one or two homeowners, I don't recall if it's one or two, maybe I do think that there should be, you know, that there should be some grass several feet between the trail and where the rocks start, I think from a safety purpose or perspective.
We'll have to talk to them because that gives them more maintenance work.
Well, I would agree too, because unlike the rest of the developments, that's got what we know as a California curb. So it's a rolling curb. It's not a straight up and down. So we find material in the road, some of the rocks. The other problem we have is, you know, when they put leaves out and stuff, I mean, it's doesn't work well with our machine and stuff. I think, you know, I don't know if we allow it. I think we just return it to grass between the curb and the walkway. What they want to do.
And the right of way.
Well, I'm not just talking about that part. I'm talking about.
And the right of way up the hill.
I'm talking, yeah, I mean, I'm talking about, and I don't know how far the right of way goes up there, but I think not just between the curb and the trail, but also on the other side of it, you know, at least a few feet on the other side so that rocks don't roll and dip down into the trail. That's my bigger concern.
Well, the right of ways are typically, they're about, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but the right of way from back of curb is about 15 feet. Is that about correct?
Yes. And maybe with them, we slide the trail over maybe only 3 feet off the back of the curb. And we give them grass between that and the curb to get until we get past the stone and put 2 feet behind it. And, you know, that way they can have rock from behind the trail up, and then there's just a smaller patch in the front. I mean, again, it's something that we can easily work with the residents on.
Well, most of that'll come up in the conversations we'll have with the residents in the town hall meeting that will ensue.
Well,
we'll have some people that are going to come back and say, well, I love this, but, and we'll talk
We're
about
not going to do that. We're not going to, well, if an individual homeowner wants to talk about their particular thing, we'll do that with them.
I think this,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
meeting with the residents is more of a generality.
Yeah, you're gonna walk them through what the plan is, and then if they have,
Not quite as much hand holding as we did with the rest, but we will talk to anyone who wants to have some hand holding. Yeah. Because we did in and out of the easement, out of the right of way, Judd, everywhere else.
Do we think we'll get much pushback from the residents, or do we think
There'll
most?
be a few. I've already gotten some. I mean,
Okay.
the people that live on Orangewood probably, half of them probably don't want it, but the other 200 do.
Right.
There's
Um,
35 homes
That
of
it'll
people that
go,
probably don't want it.
that it'll be impacted, that the trail will go through.
Yeah, but there's a good amount that the closer to Lander portion is all, I mean, most of that's side yard and I don't think the persuasive argument is there as much as it is for the other ones that it's, front yard.
I
Right.
have wanted it in Orangewood as long as I've been mayor, Brent. This has been an issue for Orangewood. We've done this a few times. This is our last try.
I have to tell you, I did a plan in the 90s to run sidewalks through Orangewood. And that was going to be done by the HOA. And it was, never done. Nobody had the stomach for how much it was going to cost to do it or deciding to create the assessment. And at that time, the plan was for a 3-foot wide walk, which is barely passable. But that's what they were asking for.
I think this is their last chance for it.
All right, does anybody else, so let's plan on doing that at 8 o'clock on the 3rd. And again, I'll ask again that day, but I'm asking now if everybody can kind of keep comments to a minimum that day. Stacy, I see you cracking a smile already. I'm not just talking to you.
I hear you.
But yes, that is what, let's try to be efficient. So we'll get a letter out to the
We'll work on it. Right, Anna? Soon.
All right, perfect. And then, all right, any other discussion on Orangewood, or is everybody good? All right. No audience, mayor comments?
Yeah, I do. On Monday, January 18th, in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Village Hall is closed. However, that will not affect trash and recycling pickup. That will still take place as usual on Monday. Anna tries to stay as current and accurate on all the vaccine and COVID information so that our resource page on our website is as up to date as it's humanly possible to be. And that's where I refer everyone to go to. We did send an email out today with a lot of information. It's always changing and it's not always accurate, but we're trying to keep it as current as possible. It's a big job and Anna's doing it great. Coupon holiday books, 117 residents came in to get them. We have distributed 80 to the apartments and we're going to give 25 to each business that participated and 100 to the AC Marriott and 50 to other Orange Village hotels. At this point, let's get them out. Let's hopefully get those transient people that are there using them.
We wanted to, can I say something real quick?
Of course.
We wanted to also make them available to village employees, if that's okay.
I sort of snuck those out to them a week ago, I think.
Okay. So
Thank
we
you.
can just make sure all the
I thought I
departments.
texted you to tell you that I did that.
No, something kind of Stacy and I had talked about. So if we could just, if the department heads just want to make sure they have enough for their people.
Great, thank you.
We also talked about giving some to the Chagrin Valley Chamber of Commerce to distribute. People coming in. Again, it promotes our businesses and people using our businesses.
There is no reason to do anything but get them out. Our residents have had plenty of opportunities to be advised to get on. Let's get those out. Let's help those businesses if it does.
Anyone that doesn't get out will be thrown away. So sure, get as many out as you can.
Last chance to have your holiday lights collected is this Friday. And then I would like to take a moment to read publicly what 5 Orange Village Council people, the Orange Mayor, and 22 other public officials throughout the east side of Cleveland have. It was published today and will probably be in print on Friday. So I know there's a few people on here who have heard this, but okay, I'm going to read this publicly. This is a Jewish local elected officials op-ed on the attack on the United States Capitol. The attack on the United States Capitol, while Congress was fulfilling its constitutional role in accepting the votes of the Electoral College selecting our next president, was an attack on democracy itself. It was instigated, promoted, and provoked by a president who refused to accept the will of the people and was enabled by his supporters in Congress and certain targeted media who helped spread his lies about the election results. The near universal condemnation of this abhorrent extremist conduct is warranted. All responsible must be held to account for the insurrection and violence. The attack was also a direct assault upon our Jewish values. We write as local Jewish elected officials. Nearly all of us were elected on a nonpartisan basis. We represent the level of government closest to the people. It's our job to fulfill the most basic functions of government: public safety, sanitation, respect for civil rights, recreation, and the education of our children. We bring to office our shared values as Jews, and all of us swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. Many of those who stormed the Capitol were neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and known members of other hate groups. They were the front-line stormtroopers of President Trump's mob. Some waved the Confederate flag and Nazi emblems. Another wore a shirt saying Camp Auschwitz. That these symbols of hate were paraded in the halls of Congress to promote the cause of a president seeking to overturn the results of a national election should shake us all to our core. In synagogue, a prayer for our country is recited in which we ask God to guide our leaders in government, quote, out of your law that they may administer all affairs in state, in justice, and equity. The prayer goes on to say, quote, unite the inhabitants of our country, of all backgrounds and creeds, into a bond of true kinship, to banish hatred and bigotry, and to safeguard our ideals and institutions of freedom, end quote. We reaffirm our commitment as elected officials to be guided in those ways and to serve your interests, not ours, consistent with our constitutional oaths and core values, and to always tell the truth. We will do our utmost to administer the affairs of our communities, to promote fairness and equal justice under law. We ask our constituents and fellow Jews to demand nothing less from those whom we elect to public office at every level. We cannot compromise our values or place anyone in public office who is unfit to serve because we may like certain policies or because it may seem to be in our individual self-interest. We just witnessed the horrific consequences of that compromise. As Jewish elected officials, we will work to assure that authoritarianism is rejected at every turn. We strongly condemn both the terrorists who carried out the hateful and violent attack on our federal government and President Donald J. Trump and the others who helped him enable and provoke it. May God bless our communities here in Northeast Ohio and across the United States. And may we all live up to that promise. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any particular comments for tonight. So I will move on to Ms. Perry.
No comments. Thank you.
Mr. Silver,
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Mr. Comet,
No comments.
Mr. Charnas,
I have no comment.
Mr. Klein.
I just wanted to reiterate what the mayor talked about. That was sort of the secondary discussion, although a principal one of the JEO meeting last Thursday. The primary focus was on a presentation by Ned Hill of the Ohio State University, who talked about economic development in our communities and raised some issues that I think are important to us. And it's about being proactive partners in our community to see the future that we want to have for ourselves and our constituents, and that we have to be participants in that process. And I think it's an important note to pay attention to, and I want to continue to work towards developing a direction for that in Orange Village. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Mr. Vincent.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Schools returned hybrid this week. It's about a 60-40 split with 40% returning approximately in the high school and at the middle school and elementary, about 60% returning, give or take a percentage. And Superintendent Campbell shared that based on the survey that went out to all of the parents, that the percentages of students attending in person would go up if and when that full day school program is implemented. Additional survey results were also shared. So if you're interested in those, they will be made available to public on the website and other means. I wanted to let you know that Orange Village resident Rebecca Boyle was elected president of the school board. So kudos to an Orange Village resident. And Melanie Weltman will be serving as vice president. They did mention that tax incentive committee. That was a part of the discussion. So I'm sure you'll be hearing from them about that. And I think Melanie is the rep to that as well. And kudos and good luck to Rebecca, who's been on the board since 2018. This week, the Lander Circle Kiwanis announced its January Student of the Month, and for the third time in a row, and I had nothing to do with it, it's just coincidental, it is another Orange Village resident. So congratulations go out to Morgan Chagrin of Orangewood, and you can read all about her many accomplishments on the Orange Schools website and in social media. The December Student of the Month was Preston Malone, also from Orangewood. And the November Student of the Month was Matthew Paul of Orange Hills. So congratulations to all of our Orange Village residents. Just another note based on what the mayor said, I spent a dozen years covering Congress on Capitol Hill, and it was absolutely heartbreaking to hear and watch the events unfold last week. My heart is with the Capitol Police and those who work day in and day out in the Capitol building, in public service, and I sincerely hope that we will find more peaceful days ahead. I want to wish everyone a happy celebration of Martin Luther King Day on Monday, and I look forward to Black History Month coming up in February and continuing to work toward racial equity all through the year. So that ends my comments, and thank you.
All right, thank you. I think that's all for tonight. So I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Take it.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. Anna, if you call roll, please.
Ernest,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Silver,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Ahmed,
Yes.
Duber.
Yes. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night and good news.